Welcome to a captivating odyssey through the enchanting realm of English Victorian poetry. In this audiobook, we invite you to immerse yourself in the rich tapestry of poetic expression that flourished during the Victorian era, a time of innovation, social change, and profound artistic exploration. From the introspective verses of Alfred Lord Tennyson to the haunting poetry of Christina Rossetti, this journey will transport you to an era that witnessed the dawning of a new age while embracing the echoes of the past. With its intricate blend of sentiment, skepticism, and social commentary, Victorian poetry offers a window into the complexities of a rapidly evolving world. As we venture into the works of Robert Browning, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, and others, you'll discover the nuanced themes of love, loss, progress, and the intricate dance between tradition and modernity. The poets of this era delve into the human psyche, exploring the facets of emotion, spirituality, and the mysteries of existence itself. We'll explore the Victorian preoccupation with nature, the exploration of inner landscapes, and the interplay between the personal and the universal. Our journey will also unveil the diverse voices of women poets who defied conventions and found their place in a literary landscape undergoing transformation. As you embark on this captivating exploration of English Victorian poetry, we invite you to join us in celebrating the profound impact these poets have had on literature, culture, and our understanding of the human experience. To continue your voyage through the realms of poetic beauty and thought, remember to subscribe to English Poetry's channel. Let us traverse this captivating journey together, embracing the eloquence of the past to enrich our present and inspire our future. English Victorian poetry, a lush and diverse landscape of artistic expression, emerged during the reign of Queen Victoria from 1837 to 1901. This remarkable era witnessed a confluence of social change, technological advancement, and literary innovation, giving rise to a poetic movement that encapsulated the complexities of a rapidly evolving world. The Victorian poets grappled with the tensions between tradition and modernity, navigating the transition from the Romantic era while responding to the challenges of industrialization, urbanization, and shifting societal norms. This dynamic backdrop is mirrored in the poetry of Alfred Lord Tennyson, often considered the quintessential Victorian poet laureate. Tennyson's works, such as In Memoriam and The Lady of Shalott, explored themes of loss, doubt, and the quest for meaning in a changing world. The introspection and emotional depth of Victorian poetry are evident in the verses of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, whose Sonnets from the Portuguese reflect her personal experiences and inner struggles. Her exploration of love, womanhood, and spirituality resonated with readers and challenged societal norms of the time. Another iconic figure of this era is Robert Browning, known for his dramatic monologues that delved into the minds of complex characters. Browning's My Last Duchess and Porphyria's Lover provide psychological insights into the minds of morally ambiguous figures, inviting readers to explore the darker corners of human nature. The Victorian poets were not confined to traditional gender roles. Christina Rossetti, a prominent female poet of the era, crafted verses that often grappled with themes of mortality, love, and devotion. Her poem, Goblin Market, explores sisterhood, temptation, and salvation through its allegorical narrative. The Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, a group of artists and poets including Dante Gabriel Rossetti and Algernon Charles Swinburne, championed a return to artistic purity and medieval ideals. Their poetry, infused with vivid imagery and an emphasis on nature's beauty, reflects a yearning for a simpler, more spiritual world amidst the industrial age's upheavals. The Victorian poets also engaged with social issues, addressing the disparities and injustices of their time. Gerald Manley Hopkins's innovative poetry, characterized by its intricate rhythm and innovative wordplay, responded to the impact of industrialization on the natural world. His poem, Pied Beauty, celebrates the diversity and uniqueness of creation. As you delve into the depths of English Victorian poetry, you'll encounter diverse voices that resonate across generations. From the whimsical verses of Edward Lear to the profound reflections of Matthew Arnold, this era offers an exquisite array of poetic styles, themes, and perspectives. It invites us to navigate the complexities of human existence, from the personal to the societal, while celebrating the enduring power of poetic expression. English Victorian poetry, a grand tapestry woven with threads of emotion, innovation, and societal change, captivated hearts and minds throughout Queen Victoria's reign. Beyond its exploration of individual experiences, this era of poetic brilliance also delved into broader themes that continue to resonate with modern readers. The Victorian poets were often preoccupied with faith and doubt, grappling with the tension between religious convictions and the challenges posed by scientific advancements and philosophical inquiries. Poets like Gerard Manley Hopkins and George Eliot, Mary Ann Evans, sought to reconcile spirituality with the evolving understanding of the natural world. The societal transformations of the Victorian era sparked conversations about gender and social roles, inspiring poets like Coventry Patmore and Matilda Blind to explore women's rights and the complexities of relationships within changing societal frameworks. The exploration of childhood and innocence extended to the poetry of Lewis Carroll, whose whimsical and nonsensical verses in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass continue to enchant readers of all ages. The Victorian poets' engagement with historical narratives and national identity is evident in the works of Alfred Lord Tennyson, who chronicled British history and myth in poems like Idylls of the King and The Charge of the Light Brigade. The theme of urbanization and its effects is mirrored in the writings of Charles Dickens and other Victorian authors. Poets like Arthur Hugh Clough captured the alienation and challenges of city life, reflecting on the rapid growth of industrial cities. The Victorian poets also touched on the sensory experiences of modern life, capturing the bustling streets, the clamor of factories, and the contrasts between urban and rural landscapes. Poetry of the Victorian era is often intertwined with notions of social reform and humanitarianism. Lord Byron's The Prisoner of Chillon and Thomas Hood's The Song of the Shirt shed light on societal issues and advocate for change. The Victorian poets' engagement with the supernatural and the mysterious is evident in the eerie and supernatural themes found in the works of Elizabeth Barrett Browning and others. The Victorian poets' exploration of scientific discoveries and technological advancements is seen in the works of Matthew Arnold and others who grappled with the implications of progress on human values and spirituality. The theme of imperialism and global exploration is reflected in Rudyard Kipling's poems that celebrate the British Empire and the idea of the white man's burden. The Victorian-era poets often engaged with class divisions and social inequalities, shedding light on the challenges faced by the working class and advocating for empathy and reform. The exploration of memory and nostalgia is evident in the works of Thomas Hardy, who vividly captured the essence of rural life and the vanishing traditions of the past. The Victorian poet's fascination with dreams and the subconscious is reflected in Christina Rossetti's Goblin Market, which blends fairy tale elements with deeper psychological undertones. The theme of evolving literary forms and experimentation can be seen in the innovative techniques of Gerard Manley Hopkins, who experimented with sprung rhythm and coined words to create a unique poetic voice. Victorian poetry's impact on children's literature and education is exemplified by the enduring popularity of Lewis Carroll's Jabberwocky and other whimsical verses that captivate young and old alike. The Victorian poets also explored political engagement and social commentary, responding to contemporary issues such as the Irish famine, women's suffrage, and political reform. The exploration of morality and ethics is seen in the works of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, who examined themes of social justice, human rights, and the moral responsibilities of individuals and societies. The Victorian poet's exploration of the psychology of human emotions is evident in the works of Robert Browning, who delved into the intricacies of love, jealousy, and the human psyche in poems like Porphyria's Lover and My Last Duchess. The theme of transience and the passage of time is woven into the fabric of Lord Tennyson's Ulysses, where the legendary hero contemplates his yearning for new experiences despite the inevitability of aging. The Victorian poet's engagement with folklore and mythology is mirrored in the pre-Raphaelites' fascination with medieval themes and the reimagining of ancient stories in a modern context. The exploration of ephemeral beauty and nature cycles can be seen in the poems of George Meredith, who captured the fleeting moments of the natural world and their reflection on human existence. The Victorian-era poets often grappled with personal introspection and self-discovery, reflecting on their own identities in the search for meaning in a rapidly changing world. The theme of escapism and fantasy is present in the works of Algernon Charles Swinburne, whose decadent and sensual poetry offered an escape from the constraints of Victorian society. The Victorian poets' exploration of universal themes of love and loss resonates through time, as their words continue to touch the hearts of readers who grapple with similar emotions today. The impact of literary criticism and aesthetic theory on Victorian poetry is evident in the essays of Matthew Arnold, who discuss the role of culture, art, and poetry in shaping society. The exploration of gender and sexual identity is seen in the writings of Michael Field, Catherine Bradley and Edith Cooper, who used a male pseudonym to explore themes of lesbian love and desire. The Victorian poets' exploration of the macabre and the Gothic is evident in the eerie and haunting verses of Dante Gabriel Rossetti, who often delved into themes of death, melancholy, and the supernatural. The theme of technology and its impact on society finds its voice in the works of Gerard Manley Hopkins, who contemplated the tension between nature and industrialization in poems like God's Grandeur. The Victorian poet's engagement with exploration and adventure can be seen in the verses of Sir Henry Newbold, who celebrated the daring spirit of exploration and the quest for new horizons. The exploration of morality and social ethics extends to the works of Alfred Austin, who grappled with questions of duty, honor, and integrity in the context of a changing society. The Victorian-era poets also had a fascination with dreams and the unconscious, a theme that resonates in the dreamlike qualities of Algernon Charles Swinburne's verses and his exploration of the hidden depths of the human mind. The theme of nostalgia and the past is reflected in the poetry of Austin Dobson, who painted nostalgic portraits of Victorian society and its connection to bygone eras. Victorian poetry's impact on women's voices and empowerment is embodied in the works of Amy Levy, whose poems often addressed the challenges and aspirations of women in a changing world. The Victorian poets were not limited to the British Isles; their influence reached global shores, as seen in the colonial themes of Rudyard Kipling's poetry, reflecting the expansion and complexities of the British Empire. The exploration of innovation in poetic form can be witnessed in the works of Christina Rossetti, who experimented with structure and rhyme in poems like Goblin Market. The Victorian poet's engagement with empire and colonialism is visible in the works of Thomas Babington Macaulay, whose Lays of Ancient Rome celebrated the achievements of Roman civilization while reflecting on Britain's imperial ambitions. The theme of war and conflict resonates through the verses of poets like Alfred Lord Tennyson, who immortalized the valor and tragedy of the Crimean War in his iconic poem, The Charge of the Light Brigade. The Victorian poet's exploration of folk songs and oral traditions influenced the works of William Barnes and other poets who sought to capture the rhythms and dialects of the common people. The exploration of mysticism and the occult finds its voice in the poetry of Arthur Machen and his fascination with supernatural elements and hidden realms. The Victorian poet's engagement with human rights and social justice extends to the works of William Morris, a poet and activist who advocated for workers' rights and a more just society. The theme of celebration of childhood innocence is embodied in the works of Robert Louis Stevenson, who captured the wonder and imagination of children in poems like My Shadow. Victorian poetry's impact on literary societies and artistic circles can be seen in the intellectual gatherings and collaborations that fostered creative exchange, such as the gatherings of the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. The exploration of mental health and inner turmoil is evident in the introspective verses of poets like John Clare, who grappled with personal struggles and the fragility of the human mind. The Victorian poets also engaged with educational reform and literary influence, as they sought to shape the curriculum and introduce poetry to a wider audience through anthologies and educational initiatives. The exploration of faith and spirituality continued through the works of Coventry Patmore, who crafted poems that contemplated divine love, redemption, and the mysteries of faith. In this journey through English Victorian poetry, we've only scratched the surface of its rich and multifaceted tapestry. As you delve deeper into its verses, you are embarking on an exploration that transcends time, connecting you to the thoughts, emotions, and aspirations of an era that shaped our understanding of the world. To continue this voyage of discovery, remember to subscribe to English Poetry's channel, where the past and present harmonize in a symphony of words and ideas that resonate across the ages. The Victorian poet's engagement with education and knowledge is evident in the works of Thomas Hardy, whose poems often grapple with the tensions between traditional wisdom and the challenges of a rapidly changing society. The theme of urbanization and the modern city finds its voice in the verses of Arthur Symons, who captured the bustling energy and contradictions of urban life in poems like Whitechapel. The Victorian poet's exploration of alienation and disconnection is reflected in the introspective verses of Gerard Manley Hopkins, who conveyed the struggles of the individual soul amidst a rapidly evolving world. The exploration of racial and cultural identity is seen in the works of Indian poets like Toru Dutt, who bridged Eastern and Western traditions in her poetry, reflecting the complexity of identity in a colonial context. The Victorian poet's engagement with the sublime and the transcendent extends to the works of Richard Watson Dixon, who sought to convey the awe and wonder of the natural world in his poetry. The theme of environmental consciousness and nature preservation is reflected in the verses of John Clare, who celebrated the beauty of the English countryside and lamented its gradual loss. Victorian poetry's impact on literary criticism and theory is seen in the essays of Matthew Arnold and others, who contemplated the role of poetry in society and the standards of literary excellence. The exploration of nostalgia and sentimentality is evident in the works of Thomas Hood, who blended humor and emotion to capture the bittersweet memories of the past. The Victorian poets also engaged with ephemera and fleeting moments, capturing the transient beauty of life in the works of Michael Field and others who sought to preserve the fleeting sensations of the present. The Victorian poet's engagement with social reform and philanthropy is evident in the works of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, who used her poetry to advocate for the abolition of slavery and the improvement of working conditions. The theme of youth and coming of age finds expression in the verses of William Wordsworth, whose autobiographical poems in The Prelude capture the transformative journey from childhood to adulthood. The Victorian poet's exploration of the concept of beauty is mirrored in the works of Algernon Charles Swinburne, whose sensual and decadent verses celebrated aestheticism and the pursuit of beauty for its own sake. The exploration of technology and communication is seen in the poems of Christina Rossetti, who grappled with the changing modes of communication and their impact on human relationships. The Victorian poet's engagement with the power of imagination is reflected in the whimsical and fantastical poems of Edward Lear, whose playful verses captivated the imagination of children and adults alike. The theme of transcendence and the mystical is evident in the works of Coventry Patmore, who contemplated divine love and spiritual ecstasy in his poems like The Angel in the House. Victorian poetry's influence on visual arts and illustration is evident in the collaborations between poets and artists, such as the illustrated editions of Alfred Lord Tennyson's poetry by pre-Raphaelite painters. The exploration of isolation and solitude finds its voice in the works of Emily Bronte, whose introspective poetry delved into the depths of the human soul and the complexities of human relationships. The Victorian poets also engaged with the complexities of memory and nostalgia, as seen in the reflective verses of George Meredith that captured the fleeting moments of the past. The exploration of spirituality and mysticism is reflected in the works of Francis Thompson, who conveyed his spiritual experiences and devotion in poems like The Hound of Heaven. The Victorian poet's engagement with psychological introspection and inner conflicts is evident in the works of Arthur Hugh Clough, who delved into the complexities of doubt, faith, and personal identity. The theme of nostalgia for childhood and innocence finds expression in the poetry of Christina Rossetti, who often reflected on the loss of innocence and the passage of time. The Victorian poet's exploration of the power of language and storytelling is mirrored in the works of Robert Browning, who crafted dramatic monologues that captured the voices and perspectives of various characters. The exploration of the exotic and the oriental is seen in the poetic works of Edward Fitzgerald, who translated and popularized the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, bringing Eastern sensibilities to Western audiences. The Victorian poet's engagement with the challenges of modernity is reflected in the poems of George Meredith, who tackled themes of disillusionment, social change, and the complexities of love. The theme of alienation and the search for belonging is evident in the verses of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, who often grappled with questions of identity, gender, and societal expectations. Victorian poetry's impact on the power of spoken word and performance is seen in the dramatic monologues of Robert Browning, which were often performed on stage and brought characters to life through voice and expression. The exploration of dreams, fantasy, and the surreal is reflected in the works of Algernon Charles Swinburne, who wove intricate tapestries of language and imagery in his poetry. The Victorian poets also engaged with the complexities of friendship and camaraderie, as seen in the poems of Emily Dickinson and Thomas Hardy that explored the dynamics of personal relationships. The exploration of personal struggles and resilience is evident in the verses of Augusta Webster, who used her poetry to address themes of women's rights, domestic violence, and social challenges. The Victorian poets' engagement with folklore and mythology is evident in the works of William Morris, who drew inspiration from medieval tales and ancient legends to craft intricate narratives in his poetry. The theme of nature's beauty and its connection to the human soul finds expression in the verses of Dante Gabriel Rossetti, who often wove images of nature into his exploration of love, desire, and spirituality. The Victorian poet's exploration of philosophical inquiry and existential contemplation is mirrored in the works of Arthur Hugh Clough, who grappled with questions of faith, morality, and the purpose of life. The exploration of the power of memory and nostalgia is seen in the poems of Coventry Patmore, who delved into the emotional resonance of past experiences and the impact they have on the present. The Victorian poet's engagement with global perspectives and cultural diversity is reflected in the writings of Sarojini Naidu, an Indian poet whose verses celebrated her country's heritage and its connection to the world. The theme of sensory experience and its connection to emotions is evident in the poetry of John Keats, who used vivid imagery and evocative language to capture the fleeting moments of human sensation. Victorian poetry's influence on the concept of the inner self can be seen in the introspective verses of Emily Dickinson, who explored the depths of her own consciousness and the mysteries of existence. The exploration of the supernatural and the uncanny is reflected in the works of Thomas Lovell Beddoes, a poet who often delved into themes of death, ghosts, and the afterlife. The Victorian poets also engaged with the evolving role of women in society, as seen in the works of Amy Levy and Adelaide Annie Proctor, who tackled issues of gender equality and women's rights in their poetry. The exploration of the intersection of science and poetry is evident in the verses of Alfred Lord Tennyson, who grappled with the discoveries of the age and their implications for human understanding. The Victorian poet's engagement with class and social hierarchies is evident in the poems of George Eliot, Mary Ann Evans, who critiqued the societal norms and divisions of her time through her poignant verses. The theme of dreams and aspirations finds expression in the poetry of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, who often conveyed the hopes and desires of the individual amidst the constraints of society. The Victorian poet's exploration of the impact of industrialization is mirrored in the works of William Blake, who critiqued the dehumanizing effects of the Industrial Revolution on the human spirit. The exploration of the power of imagination in shaping reality is seen in the poems of Samuel Taylor Coleridge, who ventured into the realms of the fantastic and the supernatural to explore the boundaries of human perception. The Victorian poet's engagement with the search for identity and self-discovery is reflected in the works of Christina Rossetti, who often explored the complexities of individuality and personal growth. The theme of cultural exchange and cross-cultural connections is evident in the poetry of Algernon Charles Swinburne, who embraced diverse influences from different cultures and traditions. Victorian poetry's impact on the visual arts and aesthetics can be seen in the collaboration between poets and painters, such as John Ruskin's exploration of art and beauty in relation to nature. The exploration of the metaphysical and the divine is reflected in the works of Thomas Traherne, whose poetry often contemplated the mysteries of existence and the divine presence in the world. The Victorian poets also engaged with personal transformation and resilience, as seen in the verses of Elizabeth Gaskell, who captured moments of change and growth in her reflective poetry. The exploration of the power of human connection and empathy is evident in the poems of Alice Meynell, who celebrated the bond between individuals and the shared experiences that unite us all. The Victorian poet's engagement with political change and reform is evident in the works of Thomas Hood, whose satirical and socially conscious poems critiqued the political establishment and advocated for the rights of the working class. The theme of emotions in the human psyche finds expression in the poetry of Matthew Arnold, who often grappled with questions of inner turmoil, alienation, and the search for meaning. The Victorian poet's exploration of the power of memory and retrospection is mirrored in the works of Dante Gabriel Rossetti, whose nostalgic verses often hark back to earlier times and personal experiences. The exploration of the natural world and environmental consciousness is seen in the poems of Gerard Manley Hopkins, who celebrated the beauty of nature while reflecting on humanity's impact on the environment. The Victorian poet's engagement with the complexity of human relationships is reflected in the works of George Meredith, who dissected the dynamics of love, marriage, and interpersonal connections in his poetry. The theme of tragedy and resilience is evident in the verses of Algernon Charles Swinburne, who often drew inspiration from historical events and figures to explore the themes of suffering and endurance. Victorian poetry's impact on the questioning of traditional beliefs can be seen in the works of Emily Dickinson, who challenged religious and societal norms in her introspective and thought-provoking poems. The exploration of nostalgia for simpler times is reflected in the poetry of Thomas Hardy, who often mourned the loss of rural traditions and the encroachment of modernity. The Victorian poets also engaged with the quest for self-expression and individuality, as seen in the verses of Arthur Rimbaud and other poets who defied conventions and embraced unconventional forms of creativity. The exploration of the complexities of human desire and passion is evident in the poems of Christina Rossetti, who often examined the intertwining of love, temptation, and spiritual devotion. As we continue our voyage through the world of English Victorian poetry, we uncover a tapestry woven with a multitude of themes, emotions, and perspectives. Each poet's voice adds a unique thread to the narrative of this era, offering insights into the hopes, struggles, and aspirations of the people who lived during this transformative time. To continue this immersive journey, remember to subscribe to English Poetry's channel, where the echoes of the past converge with the present, inviting us to explore the endless possibilities of poetic expression and thought. Victorian poets' engagement with social commentary and critique is evident in the works of George Bernard Shaw, who used his poetic talents to address issues of class disparity, women's rights, and the pitfalls of capitalism. The theme of journeys and quests finds expression in the poetry of Matthew Arnold, who often used the metaphor of travel to explore the complexities of personal growth and intellectual exploration. The Victorian poet's exploration of memory and trauma is mirrored in the works of Christina Rossetti, whose introspective verses touched upon themes of loss, grief, and the impact of past experiences. The exploration of spiritual seeking and enlightenment is seen in the poems of George MacDonald, who delved into the realms of faith, doubt, and the quest for deeper understanding. The Victorian poet's engagement with technological advancement and its consequences is reflected in the works of Thomas Hardy, who often depicted the tensions between tradition and progress in his poetry. The theme of the subconscious and dreams is evident in the verses of Algernon Charles Swinburne, who ventured into the realm of the unconscious mind to explore hidden desires and fears. Victorian poetry's impact on the portrayal of marginalized voices can be seen in the works of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, who advocated for the abolition of slavery and the rights of women through her poetic activism. The exploration of the allure of the exotic and the unknown is reflected in the poetry of Edward Fitzgerald, who translated the enigmatic verses of the Persian poet Omar Khayyam, sparking fascination with Eastern mysticism. The Victorian poets also engaged with the dynamics of power and authority, as seen in the works of Wilfred Owen and other poets who critiqued war, authoritarianism, and the abuse of power. The exploration of metaphors and symbols is evident in the poems of John Ruskin, who often used allegorical language to convey deeper meanings about society, art, and human nature. The Victorian poet's engagement with the exploration of gender and sexuality is reflected in the works of Michael Field, Catherine Bradley, and Edith Cooper, who wrote under a male pseudonym and explored themes of same-sex desire in their poetry. As we journey through the vast terrain of English Victorian poetry, we continue to uncover new facets of its intricate mosaic. Each poet's contribution is a testament to the era's intellectual curiosity, social conscience, and boundless imagination. To continue this captivating voyage, remember to subscribe to English Poetry's channel, where the past and present blend seamlessly, inviting us to immerse ourselves in the timeless melodies of poetic expression and insight.